Good morning and welcome to Econ podcast. I am your host, Michaela Mesa. Today we will be exploring the armed and autocratic North Korea with some special guests. Before we start, let's meet our Elysian guest panel.
Hi everyone, my name is Davinia and I will be part of your guest panels for today.
Hi everyone, I'm Raina and I'll be part of your guest panel for today.
Hi everyone, I'm Tamara and thank you for tuning in on Econ podcast.
Before we start, a brief introduction on North Korea. North Korea is officially the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and is in East Asia. It is in the northern half of the Korean peninsula and borders China to the north and South Korea to the south at the Korean demilitarized zone. Now, North Korea is known for its heavy dictatorship and totalitarianism. Recently, the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, visited the hermit state. Considering that Russia is currently in a war and is facing world sanctions, what do you think they were trying to achieve by visiting North Korea, Tamara?
First of all, thank you for directing this question to me, Mikey. So, as you've mentioned, Russia is currently at war and is facing world sanctions. And the president has visited North Korea because North Korea is known for its heavy dictatorship and totalitarianism. So, the president's visit to North Korea it served several strategic purposes between Russia's war and sanctions. Firstly, it aimed to strengthen the war alliances against the Western influence and to build a supportive partnership with an isolated state. Secondly, it likely focused on military cooperation, potentially to do with seeking weapons and technology, to aid Russia's war efforts. Economically, it showcased it explored the trade or resource exchanges to ease Russia's economic pressures, and overall it bolstered Russia's relationship with the world despite global isolation.
That is a terrific response, Tamara. Now, North Korea and Russia would pose serious threats upon the world and against world powers. Lately, Korea has been opening to tourists again. According to The Guardian and International Edition, North Korea is opening to tourists after almost 5 years. But will anyone go? Would you go, Davi?
Thank you, Michaela. Yes, this is true. North Korea has opened back up to tourism, but only to its friendly countries like Russia and possibly China. But recent news have showed that only Russian tourists have been seen going into North Korea. And I believe people would want to go, tourists would want to go, but that depends on their own interests. Me personally, I wouldn't go because of certain things. There were certain things that came to my attention about North Korea. The countries that have a do not travel advisory in place for North Korea, and the North Korean visa is available to all countries except for countries with South Korean passports. So, yeah.
Thank you, Davi, for that response. Now, Raina, I know you're a South Korean advocate. This question is for you. What recent activities have North Korea engaged in about missile tests?
Thank you for that question. Well, recently North Korea is engaged in long-range ballistic missiles which could reach long distances, and these tests have raised concerns among North Korea's neighboring countries such as South Korea and Japan. And North Korea has justified these actions as defensive measures perceived from threats with the US as it allies with South Korea militarily.
Thank you, Raina. Okay, now you may find the story a bit humorous. I read this earlier and I found it very funny. So there was the story of this Olympian who vaulted over the North Korean fence that divides them from South Korea. What are your views on that, Tamara? Why do you think he did it?
Okay, so yes, there was a story about an Olympian vaulting over the North Korean border, and I think, from my point of view, I think such act is a very dramatic act, and it likely reflects a desire for freedom. So that such act, it symbolizes resistance against oppressive regimes, and it highlights the difference between life in North Korea and South Korea. And also the athlete may have been doing such actions to escape from personal issues or political repression. And his actions suggest desperation and a hope for better future.
Thank you for that overview, Tamara. Okay, to Raina again, how does North Korea's missile cooperation with Russia affect regional security?
Well, North Korea's growing ties with Russia, particularly in areas concerning military-wise, have significant implications for regional security among the region, and such cooperation could bolster North Korea's military base, because since Kim Jong-un has taken after his father in being the dictator of North Korea, it has said that the military equipment have doubled in tens, and that's very concerning for the region, as South Korea and North Korea have bad blood between them.
Thank you for that well-calculated response. Alright, so the North Koreans have recently unveiled a new suicide drone that bears a striking resemblance to the Iranian drone Shahid, which Russia had been using to attract Ukraine. The new unmanned vehicle, the UAV, was unveiled in a military test overseen by North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un. The images broadcast by the North Korean state channel are blurred, but experts say that there's enough resemblance to make connection to the Iranian-made Shahid and the Russian-made Lancet 3. Do you think that's why Russia wanted to visit North Korea? To influence them and maybe use them as an asset in the war against Ukraine and quite possibly the United States, Davi?
I believe so. There was a treaty signed recently between Russia and North Korea on a mutual defense provision, which makes clear that Vladimir Putin doesn't want to have anything to do with Western countries, and also with Russia's current war with Ukraine, I'm pretty sure they would be looking for assets to help them with the war, and North Korea is their best right now. North Korea recent news have showed that North Korea has a new nuclear weapons program, and as of this year is estimated to have an arsenal of approximately 50 nuclear weapons and sufficient production of fissile material for 6 to 7 nuclear weapons per year. North Korea also has the 4th largest active duty soldiers in the world, so this could be reasons why Russia seek North Korea as an asset.
That is very interesting and alarming at the same time. Thank you, Davi. So Kim Jong-un is an autocratic leader with very strict laws. What do you think it's like for people, especially children, living under his rule? Try to compare both North Korea and South Korea. There is a stark difference between both of them, isn't there, Tamara?
I believe so. There is a stark difference or contrast between life in North Korea and South Korea, especially for the children that are living under Kim Jong-un's control, compared to those in South Korea. So in North Korea, children they experience strict control, political indoctrination, and they have limited resources with a sharp divide between the elite and the general population. Compared to South Korea, the children, they experience freedom, they have diverse opportunities, and they focus more on education and innovation with better living standards and healthcare. Yes.
That makes sense. Thank you, Tamara. Now, imagine if we had someone like him as one of our politicians. Now, if North Korea was one of our trading partners, would you keep ties with them if you became our new foreign affairs minister, Davinia?
Well, to cut ties with North Korea or any nation at all would depend on several aspects, factors like national interest, international relations, and regional stability. If North Korea's actions were to pose a threat to our country or to breach security protocol, then I think it would be wise to cut ties with the nation. However, keeping diplomatic channels could also facilitate dialogue and open avenues for development and aid our economic opportunities. Ultimately, this decision would require careful consideration of both immediate and long-term implications for our country.
Thank you, Davinia. Thank you for that response. Now we are on our last question, guys, for today. This question is for you, Raina. What are North Korea's motivations behind threatening a war with South Korea?
Thank you for that question. I think that's my favorite question for today. With that question in mind, I just want to make a statement from an article that I've read recently. North Korea stated that it would make South Korea its permanent enemy due to its Korean War in the past. And they have also stated that if South Korea ever reaches their territory, through airspace or any sort of encroachment, then that would be considered as a threat to war, and they would start war without any provocations. So with that, North Korea often threatens war with South Korea, which is very unfair, I think. And they say that it's to solidify the internal support and project its strength externally to countries around the world, and that also threats can serve multiple purposes. One could be to distract from domestic issues within their countries and reinforce the regime's narrative and external enemies, and look to deter South Korea and military collaborations with the US, which has been threatening the North Korean recently, which could also result in their partnership with Russia.
Thank you, Raina. Thank you, guest panel. That's all for today. Before we leave, do any of you want to say anything? Any comments? Any concerns?
Nothing from me.
Nothing.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for having us today.
All right, that's all for today. I think it was a very eye-opening interview, and the ideas shared here today were very exclusive and very original. I'd like to thank the very beautiful and amazing guest panel for taking the time to talk to us today. And I am your host, Michaela Mesa, and this is Econ Podcast.